here's an update. I have been very sick the last 4 days with a very bad cold. I don't know where I got it. The only place I've been is to Sam's Club, and I must have I didn't disinfect the handle on the cart. So I've got my purse loaded with that because we can't stop being very careful with COVID. I've never had COVID, but you know, there's always a first time. I have been immunized, and but yeah, you can still catch it. And I don't know if I got it. I don't think so. It's just a cold, but it has knocked me down for the last 4 days, which is why I didn't record anything. But here is a little bit of background about how I was raised as a little girl. This is going to shock some of you all because I was raised where they had no electricity. It was in Winchester, Virginia, in a little town called Gainesboro. And we had no electricity. We had no running water, no heat. So you're saying, well, how did you function? Well, my mother had a wood stove, and she would put wood in it, light the fire, and that's how we cooked our food. And if we were hungry, we went to the chicken coop and we would cut a chicken's head off, or a rabbit. We had a lot of rabbits. Now that I think about it, I kept wondering why we had so many rabbits. It's because we were eating them, and I didn't know as a little girl. We even had a turkey. We called Tom Turkey. He was our pet. And then all of a sudden, Tom was gone. We also had a pet pig named, of course, Porky. And we ate him too. Oh my God. My mother had a cow that was always kicking her because she was always covered in bruises. This is true story. Yeah. Let's see. In order to get water, we had to go outside, no matter what time of the year, and pump it out of a well and bring it in. And me and my sisters we'd wait for the water to boil, and then my mother would put it in a big galvanized tub and bathe us in there. And it kind of gives me the creeps nowadays. Okay, now my sister, the one that's no longer here, Bonnie, she had a bad habit of holding her breath. I remember this. I was like in first grade, and my mother would have to throw her in the kitchen sink to get her to breathe again. I just thought Bonnie was just kind of weird that way. Because, you know, I don't know if you can hold your breath till you pass out or die. I don't know. But my mother was always throwing her head in the sink, you know. I do remember somehow tar. Some animals got trapped in some tar and they all died, which, you know, it just terrifies me that that even happened. But let's see, we had kerosene lamps, and this was the best part of my life, I do believe. We did not know that we were poor, and that was okay. If you don't know you're poor, you just don't know. I do remember being hungry sometimes, and I climbed up on top of my mother's refrigerator and ate a whole bunch of chocolate, but it was X-Lax. Yeah. And I remember I was a beauty guru even in first and second grade. I got into my mother's VO5 and just drenched it. And she says, Debbie, you're just going to have to keep washing your hair till that stuff comes out, because it was oily, an oily mess. Now, if we wanted, I remember when the power lines came in, because I would hear chainsaws and they would cut a path over the mountain. I remember that was a big deal. And my mother, believe it or not, would let me walk almost 2 miles to the country store. I just can't believe that. I was riding bareback when I was 6 years old with the neighborhood girls, and their name was Betty and Barbara Gozzard. And they were like in 3rd and 4th grade, but I wish I had not lost contact with them because they were like my best friends, and we would go into their barn, jump off into the hay. We would pretend like we were horses. We would make little horses' tails and gallop, and they could mimic the whinny or or ever that noise that horses makes. I could never do it. And we would have little tea parties where we would cut up bologna. And I remember riding the bus with Betty and Barbara, and they always had fruit, which I thought only rich people had that, because they always had like cut up oranges. And to this day, I love oranges. But here's the clincher. My father was working in Northern Virginia in the ceramic tile business. And he had an opportunity to buy Tyson's Corner. If you know anything about that, that is very developed now. He had an opportunity when he came back from a Korean War to buy some of that land, but he didn't. But he did, of course, buy the 350 acres in Winchester. And I was the last one getting off the bus. And I remember one of the kids on the bus had thrown up. And to this day, if I smell throw up, I just get so sick. But because I was the oldest, my mother let me hang out with my dad a lot because he was very, very handsome. A lot of people thought he was Elvis. And he had a cockfighting rink built in this huge barn that we owned. And it had a dirt floor, and it had a wooden circular railing, and we had a snack bar, and I would run the snack bar like in 2nd grade. So I guess that's my earliest retail experience. But I remember seeing a lot of money, a lot of men, and a lot of dead chickens piled up, at least 4 or 5 foot piles. And it wasn't until I started getting developed that my mother said, "No, Debbie, you can't go anymore." And I thought, is this what I have to look forward to? I cannot have fun just because I got a little bit of boobs. So yeah, I resented my puberty, believe me. But yeah, I did not know as a little girl that that was illegal. I do know that we were raided a couple times, and I wondered why my father was always jumping out of the window. Now, he was almost 6'5", but yeah, that's what it was like. But the best part was there was a frog pond across the road, and at night, I don't think we had screens on the windows. It was a really old farmhouse, and our bedroom was upstairs. And I remember opening the window and listening to the crickets and the frogs. And to this day, I open my window and I don't hear the crickets and the frogs so much. When I lived at the broccoli farm, I did, but not now. But I put on a sound machine on YouTube. I guess it's the meditation. You can put in, if you like to hear thunder or gentle rain or crickets or frogs. And that is how I relax myself, because those are the best memories. And then we moved to the big city, and my life totally changed. Because our bus in Winchester would stop at a little country store, and I was never allowed to get off because I was so young. But one day I accidentally hit my head, and the bus driver and all the kids said, "Debbie, why don't you go in and get you something?" And I always bought a Hershey bar, always. But that's when from that point on, I was allowed out of the bus. I thought that was the greatest thing. So when I moved to Fairfax, to Oakton, Virginia, I went and had a talk with the principal, because I said, "Listen, I don't know what's going on, but the bus does not stop at this country store for us." And he had to call my mom, because I was very brave. I don't know. I just didn't like the way things were in this big city. I like the country. I still do. So my brother thinks I live in BFE. If you don't know what that is, Google it. And I just realized I put my place up on Google Earth, and I am just 1 block from a major highway. All right, I hope you enjoyed my little story. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.